Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
JJ, once again, the cryptid huntress has wandered in to the Fox Den for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Yet before we dive in to the infamous Dogman topic, I need to feed. Much better. I was so hungry from my long slumber. Now that I'm revamped and ready to roll, it is time for Jessica Jones and myself to take a walk into the darkness.
My creatures of the night, once again, it's midnight lycanthropy time, and we got the cryptid huntress, aka Jessica Jones from Spaced Out Radio, who took time out of her busy schedule to once again figure out what the heck the Dogman is doing globally. How are you doing tonight, Jessica?
Hey, I'm doing excellent. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for popping back on. It's always appreciative to have you here in the Fox Den. What have you been up to lately?
Oh, I've been busy, out there doing some field research and interviewing people that have had experiences with cryptids like Bigfoot and Dogman. Oh, a reptilian, actually. I just had an interview with a guy who was one of my teammates that had an incident not too long ago. So yeah, I've been staying busy.
Sounds like it. That's a bunch of nightmare fuel right there for sure. Yikes. Tonight, though, I think you would like to dive into one of the infamous Dogman grave digging encounters.
Oh yeah. So absolutely. Yeah, I just recently did some research on the Akron, Ohio grave digging Dogman. And I know your audience is probably going to be pretty familiar with that. If you're into the Dogman phenomenon, which I know you guys are, you're probably familiar with this case. And I've been messaging back and forth with Colleen, the woman who actually owns this video. Now, Colleen is with the Northeast Ohio Cryptid Research Team, and she does field investigations, and she said that she's been following and searching for these dogmen because there's been reports of multiple dogmen in this area. As you know, Kenny, there's a lot of dogman activity up there in Ohio, and but she's said that she's been chasing these dogmen for at least 5 years now. And so she put the whole story out there. And what I did actually on my show, this was given to me as a blind remote viewing target. I do something as part of my research on my field research team. We're trained in this military style of remote viewing. And this is one of my blind targets a while back. Did a show on it this past week where we revealed some of the data. And I got to say, of all the Dogman reports that I've seen, all the videos, all the evidence, and this data, I would say that this is a real Dogman. I believe it is my personal opinion. This is a real Dogman, a real video of a Dogman digging in the cemetery. I mean, I can get into the story if you'd like of what happened that day and what these people saw.
Yes, keep on rolling. Let's go.
All right. Well, a few years ago, there were a couple of girls, and this is according to what Colleen told me. She said there were a couple of girls that were on their dinner break, and they worked at a restaurant nearby. I guess they were in Akron, Ohio, and I guess they drove to a cemetery on their dinner break. Okay, like and that's not super unusual. Okay, because I know people are like, why are they going to the cemetery? Well, when I was young, and these are younger girls. When I was young, I used to get in the car, and we lived in a small town, and we would go ride around town in circles on the weekends. Okay, so you get bored. There's really not a whole lot to do. You go ride around. But these two girls went to the cemetery, and this was something. It's called Green Lawn Cemetery. They were pulling in. There's a video. Okay, and from what I understand, these girls were watching this thing for at least about 5 minutes. When they pulled their car into the cemetery, they noticed that there was what they thought was an unkempt, dirty lady, a woman, was on her knees digging into the ground, like feverishly digging into the ground, and dirt was flying up all over the place. And it just looked weird. They were like, what is this? And so one of the girls turned on her camera on her cell phone and started recording. And now this is a huge, big cemetery, and there's a gigantic, like 500-foot mausoleum right beside where this person, what they thought was a person, was digging. I guess the area where this thing was digging was where they put the cremains, like where people had been cremated and they buried the urn in the ground. But this one particular place where this person, they thought it was a person, was digging, there were no cremains there. It was an empty burial plot, so there was nothing there. But these girls didn't know that at the time. All they saw was a black figure. It looked like it was black from head to toe. And it was digging. It was like with its hands. Okay. It was absolutely digging with its hands, which is wild. They said they watched it dig for a while. And they started videotaping it. They thought it was a lady. They were fascinated by how it was digging with its hands. Now, it was breaking through hard sod, like the soil, with its fingertips. And like Colleen said, we would have broken our nails and fingers had us humans tried to do that. Okay, especially a lady. And so it was almost impossible. And let me tell you, this hole was pretty deep. Colleen actually went back and investigated this after this happened. Colleen is actually friends with these two girls. And so they are friends with her daughters, what she told me. And so when they had seen this, they contacted her because she is a cryptid field investigator, and they gave her the video. So she's the one who actually owns this video now. But they said that it was digging a super, super, super deep hole, especially to be a human. And first of all, like, what in the world would a human be doing digging in a cemetery? Anybody that's of sound mind would not do that. Okay, nobody would do that. That's not even funny for a joke. Okay, like even if somebody was trying to do a practical joke or something, that's not funny, and that's very taboo. So like, it's not normal for humans to do something like that. So they were super perplexed and a little weirded out. And you can hear their conversation in the video if you go watch it, and you can find this video online. Just look up. I think I looked up the Ohio grave digging Dogman. That's what I looked up, and it's all over the internet on YouTube. But they said the arms would have had to have been 32 to 35 inches long to allow a hole that was around 21 inches deep, while sitting on its knees. Now, the pictures that you can see, and I know the North American Dogman Project, you guys do have pictures of this on your website. There is an indentation in the dirt where whatever this was that was digging had placed its knee. It never was laying on its belly. It was not really, I think it was more kind of squatting a little bit. It was squatting. And I know that because Thinker Thunker, who's one of my favorite cryptid analysis websites, okay, it's on YouTube. Go to Thinker Thunker, and he has a video where he analyzed this footage. And he actually came to the conclusion on this video that he has on his on Thinker Thunker on YouTube. He believes it's definitely a non-human. It looks like it was something that was bent down. It was kind of squatting, also on its knees as it was digging. But he does an excellent analysis of this. So I highly recommend you guys go watch that. But they said that it did not use any digging tools. Like when you go and look at the hole, and the pictures are on your website, the NADP website, you can tell that there were no tools used. It was all hands, okay, all claws. Basically, what I think was that it had to have been claws, not just fingers, like dainty little human hands. Okay, this took some serious claw power. And now I gotta say, I've dug holes before. Holes are hard to dig, especially when you're dealing with like rocks, clay, roots of trees and stuff. And it's not easy to dig a hole at all. And this thing was doing it, and I don't want to say effortlessly because it looked more feverishly, like it almost looked kind of desperate or something, because it was just digging so hard. And the odd thing is too is that it didn't stop when those women approached it. They didn't get really close to it, but they got close enough, and it never stopped digging. Now, something else that's kind of interesting that Colleen had pointed out was that there was a little black figure in the background. And you can see it in some of the pictures, like still shots. If you take still shots of the video, there's something little. Now Colleen, her hypothesis is this dog man was probably a female that was maybe burying its baby. And that's what she thought. Now that was not the first thing I thought when I've seen this video. I thought it had to have been digging for a dead body. That was my first thought, was, oh, it's trying to get at a body. Now, I didn't know any background on this the first time I saw the video. I did not know those were cremains where people had been cremated. So there were no actual bodies there. So it kind of leaves you with like more questions, right? It's like, okay, well, if this is a real dog man, which I think it is, I think it could be, what in the world was it doing? Like I said, Colleen believes that it was burying its young, potentially. Some people have actually said, well, maybe it was a conjured or a manifested being. Okay, because I'd like to look at all this from every different angle. Okay, if it's like a flesh and bone kind of, a dogman being that's like all in the flesh, three-dimensional, that lives here on the land. Well, there were reports that the surrounding area had suffered a terrible fire, and some of the forest and the woods had been burned down. And so there's speculation that potentially maybe it's young fire, or maybe it had been displaced out of its habitat. And maybe that's why it was out in the open. If you look at it from that angle, and you're looking at it like, wow, okay, so this might have been a mama trying to bury her baby. That really gives it some human attributes to me. So, looking from that angle, it's kind of human-like. Like it's watched humans bury their cemetery, and it wants to come bury its baby there, if that's the case. Now you look at another angle of it, wolves. If you compare this thing to wolves, a wolf, a dog, or a wolf, they say that wolves will dig up dead animals. They dig up and they'll eat them. Okay, so we've got that aspect too. When you're trying to figure out what was going on with this thing. Now, I didn't see any kind of like follow-up video of this. Like I did talk, I've messaged with Colleen about it. The cemetery, the people at the cemetery said it was not one of their grave diggers. It was definitely not one of their workers. Okay, it wasn't one of their workers. And as a matter of fact, they had to go in the next day and cover the hole back up. Okay, my question is like, well, was there anything in it? Had this dog man or whatever this was buried something in there? I mean, it didn't cover it back up because the hole was there and there was dirt everywhere. And okay, and I did mention that some people were speculating maybe it was a supernatural manifested being, like something that was manifested out of some kind of ritual or something, like a shapeshifter, a skinwalker, dare I say. Well, in that case, maybe it was there to go get some graveyard dirt or something. I mean, I don't know how that works. Okay, but I've been told that through rituals, werewolves are manifested. Through rituals, people can turn into werewolves and stuff. So was this part of some kind of ritual? I mean, there's that to look at as well. Nonetheless, this is a fantastic piece of evidence when it comes to the Dogman phenomenon. I am all about this video. I think it's great. I'm glad those two girls are okay. Okay, I bet they were a little bit traumatized by it, looking back on it. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to talking to Colleen again in the future to get some more information out of this.
That's all pretty legendary right there for sure. And you'll have to keep me updated. And yeah, actually, recently we've decided we're going to push through with the Germantown documentary that we've been working on. So we're actually going to be able to get it out around the fall. That's going to be a segment in the video that we're going to talk about is that Ohio grave digging. I think we might actually have the original video from Colleen that Jody had, which is pretty legendary for sure. And now you tap on a lot of interesting aspects, which is questions that, well, again, what was in the hole? Why was nothing else spoken about that? And well, to the people that said it wasn't one of our grave diggers, well, yeah, I would hope you wouldn't be sending out a grave digger dressed up in a werewolf outfit. That'd be quite, thank you, Captain Obvious, for that one. But it is super intriguing. And then also you have people that like to come sideways and be like, oh, well, why didn't the girl stop and get out? And it's like, well, realistically, are you going to just get out, even if that is a person digging savagely through the ground, let's say, would you get out and just get close to them? I wouldn't personally. So now if it was a strange animal destroying the ground, ripping apart, looking for something, of course you're not going to get out of the car. And to touch on what you said about wolves eating carcasses. Yeah, I mean, hyenas dig up bodies and eat them. Crocodiles will go and pretty much do very similar things if they're able to. It's free food. I mean, people at the end of the day, for some reason, don't seem to comprehend that animals eat. They think that we're off the menu because we're just that disconnected from reality. We think that we can just walk out into the wilderness and befriend a massive grizzly bear and it's not going to swat you, or that we can just dive into the ocean and not potentially be attacked by sharks. It's not going to happen to us because we're a person. Right. People don't seem to grasp that obviously these two girls aren't going to just hop out of their car and approach this. I mean, yes, you're going to continue to drive. And it's definitely a pretty intriguing video in regards as to how it all unfolds and just, as you said, the taboo type of aspect. And what we talked about on our last episode of just when you put weird insignias on gravestones or go into areas and dig through gravestones, or some people will find random human bones and just pick them up and handle them. That's all just stuff that's taboo. So the aspect of what was doing this is pretty intriguing for sure. Have you heard potentially anything else on that, like in the area, as if what the had to say, or if anyone else had to really state any opinions on it?
I have not heard a whole lot other than what Colleen had told me. I think the cemetery staff took care of it. I'm looking forward to talking to her about because I don't know the whole follow-ups. I just know that she said that she's still looking for them, and she actually gave me some coordinates and some locations to look at as far as the pathways around there. She said that there's some trails that they take, and I mean she's been on their trail for 5 years now, so she knows there's multiple dogmen out there. It's just a matter of locating them again and finding out what they're doing and where they're at.
That's super intriguing. That ring a bell in my head saying that if they didn't call the that maybe they've had this type of behavior happen before, or that maybe the cemetery themselves might have something to do with it, or Ooh. One of their staff potentially. It's just strange that, I don't know about you, I just know personally that if I ran a graveyard and I saw or had two girls tell me that they saw a massive wolf digging up a grave, and then I find a huge hole and they can show me a video, I would probably, aren't you supposed to contact the police? I shouldn't use the word supposed to, but isn't that usually something that you would do, I guess?
I think, you know what, that's a good question. I mean, we hear about dogmen being seen at cemeteries and Indian burial mounds. And so there is a connection. And I was talking with a good friend of mine. Well, to answer your question about the police, I would think so. I mean, that's such a great point. if they didn't call the cops, maybe it had happened there before. And I want to say, and I don't know for sure, but I feel like Colleen said that this was not the first time that had happened there. Okay,
That would
but
make
don't
sense
quote me
then.
on that. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure she did say that. So we'll have to go back and I'm gonna have to do an interview with her soon, or maybe you guys can also get a hold of her as well. I would think that that would be mighty suspicious, if they didn't call the cops, because that's, first of all, it's trespassing in a cemetery and destroying property out there. And you're not supposed to really deal with, like, you're not supposed to mess with remains of humans, right? Like, you're not supposed to go in there. There's got to be laws against that, I thought.
There's
Desecrating
100%
graves.
laws. Yeah, desecration of graves. It's no different than, I mean, obviously there's other reasons they don't want people down underneath Paris, but the same thing, that's against the law as well. You can't just go in there and, yeah, desecrate a grave. You can't just dig up somebody's remains and just
Right.
play with them and stuff. Like grave digging is also a crime, yes.
Hmm. Well, yeah, it's I can't wait, like I said, to talk to Colleen about all this again. But we do. Oh, I was going to tell you about William Nighthawk, my friend, was telling me the other day that he's Native American, uh, a Native American elder, actually, who he's kind of my go-to when I have something, a question about any kind of cryptid connection with the indigenous people. I had to go do an investigation with that involves some skinwalkers potentially, and so I consulted with him before I went. And what he was telling me was some lands, some places, and that includes Ohio and Akron. Some places, some of the land, especially around cemeteries, has been either blessed or cursed by some of the medicine men and women. And that is in order to protect the land at all cost. And that means summoning these dogmen, the werewolves, the Bigfoots, whatever kind of cryptids around there, even the rakes or the pale crawlers, any kind of, even ETs, I believe. Okay, from what he was saying, sometimes they have been summoned there to protect this land at all costs, and that includes burial grounds, Indian mounds, and cemeteries. Okay, so this could have some kind of connection to that, which now I don't know. I can't say that would make whatever we're looking at in that video a skinwalker by any means, but it could be like a manifested being, in the meaning that it was summoned there by a medicine man or something. So it's something interesting to look into. It's food for thought, if nothing else, when we're trying to figure out what this is, because it clearly looks like a dog man. Okay, it looks like a dog man or a werewolf. But how did it get there and why was it there? That's the question. Those are the questions.
It's definitely baffling for sure. And as you stated, it's all right on point. Like what the Christmas trees is in this graveyard, just savagely digging through someone's remains. It's definitely not normal behavior. Like I said, I guess you don't have to call the police, but I mean, put it this way. So the community I live in, right? I guess I would use this as an example. If someone did something to my yard, yeah, I would call the community to complain, but then call the as well. Someone just vandalized my stuff. Like I'm not just gonna, I suppose, call the park and tell them. But if it was, say, like one of my ex-girlfriends or something that I didn't want to get in trouble with, or I didn't want to get her in trouble with the law, but I needed like to have my property fixed, then, or just take care of it myself, sure, I wouldn't call the. That's why I was asking that question, just to see if you knew, and it seemed to me potentially that they must have had either A, other type of encounters like that, or B, that someone in the cemetery that runs it or something might potentially have some sort of strange activity themselves that they're diving into. It just doesn't seem like something you wouldn't call unless you felt like it wasn't of any sort of endangerment. But I mean, these two girls seem to think it was pretty
Hmm.
creepy and potentially dangerous. So it's just, yeah, it's kind of strange that why there was no activity. Because I mean, in almost, I don't want to use say the word every, but I'm pretty sure almost every Dogman encounter, if it was some sort of property damage or where they felt like their life was in jeopardy, they called the I mean, if it was something just running across the road or something, they might have called their husband or their wives or something or their best friends to tell them. But I mean, in almost every case, if someone's sitting in their house and they see this creature banging on their door, I mean, remember that guy called the police because it dog, and then the dispatcher is literally asking him what he's seeing. He's like, "Geez, get over here right now." So I mean, exactly, like
Yep.
that would seemingly be my reaction, even if I owned a graveyard and I was familiar with bodies and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I don't own that, so I guess I don't know how I would react. But if I would still probably be a little caught off guard to see a person or even someone dressed up or a dogman, potential dogman digging a grave, I would call the. That's why I'm just kind of baffled, I guess.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. You got to think like a normal, everyday, normal person. Okay. Because like you and I are not normal people. And the people who are listening to this podcast and to this show right now, we all think differently. Okay. And we're actually not the majority out there. And a lot of people don't think in terms of a dog man. Okay. They see something, even in a video, there's still going to be people who look at this and say, that's a wolf or something, because their minds are not going to be able to wrap around what they're really looking at. Okay, and all the people at this graveyard, the cemetery, maybe all they saw was the hole. Maybe they never even saw the video, So they're thinking like a dog came in and did that, or like a wolf. And I'm only doing this to play devil's advocate, kind of to kind of put it out there on the angle of like, what do normal everyday people see? Okay, because they're not all thinking like we are, and maybe they don't see, even though you can see in that video. Okay, I was analyzing the video myself, and the way that whatever this was digging, it wasn't digging from front to back, like digging its hands in the dirt and going front to back. It was digging from side to side in front of its body. Okay, so its arms were like swinging in front of its body, like side to side and into the ground. It was so odd. It's so odd. It's not like something that a human would do. Okay. And it's not like something a dog would do. And you can see it had claws in the video. You can see its hands in the claw. So, I, like I said, I was trying to play kind of devil's advocate because not everybody thinks in terms, and they don't want to believe that they're looking at what they're actually looking at. Okay. Like their brains can't comprehend that, their minds. So maybe that's what happened. I mean, I don't know.
No, I mean, that's definitely a good way to approach it, subjectively, objectively look inside and outside the box all around it. And I definitely understand that, but maybe, as you said, I mean, even just, I guess even if I saw a large dog outside, though, just like savagely ripping apart my yard, I would call animal control or something. I feel
Right.
but yeah, of course. I mean, and also it just kind of stems back to the point of most likely that area or people within that cemetery or whoever ran that sector of the town is well aware of what was occurring, which probably is why they just kept it under wraps then.
That's what it sounds like. I mean, it sounds like this is pretty. I'm not saying it's common, but it just sounds like there's a lot of sightings over there. So there's no telling.
It is in Ohio too, so I mean, yeah, heck yeah, that's definitely an extremely common area right there where you're having a ton of dogman activity. That's definitely dwelling right in that segment. It's like when I was talking to Steve Stockton earlier, how I was saying like Michigan, Ohio, land between the lakes, like not necessarily that area. I just use that term to describe Kentucky, Tennessee. In that little area, I mean, you have dogman sightings everywhere else, but that's like I don't want to say the heartbeat, but that's kind of where it pumped up, I feel like, in that area. And there's also a ton of the cave systems that are right around there too. So no, I mean, it all makes sense. And what you also said about the other graveyard sightings, and there's definitely something going on and some sort of correlation with all that. What it is, I'm baffled. I feel there is a difference. Think the cemetery type things are definitely having something to do with the darker magic aspects. I still feel like I was informed earlier by actually our geologist, William, about how in the historical aspects of the Amish, I guess they have potentially a lot of ties to some darker magic and like shape-shifting type aspects, and he's supposed to dive into that on our next episode in New England specifically. So that would also make sense too. I would definitely enjoy for you to make sure to keep me updated as to if you do get any more knowledge on that and just your thoughts, because that's some gnarly stuff for sure.
Oh, I'll definitely keep you posted for sure. As I get information, I will pass it on to you. And yeah, I think we do need to look more into the dark magic occult side of all of this. When it comes to the rituals and the blood magic and shapeshifting, I think that plays a big role in a lot of these creatures that people are seeing.
That's a very interesting aspect too. So yeah, we'll have to dive into that soon, because I know on Bray Road in Wisconsin there was a bunch of strange, I don't even know how to, just like, not mounds, but just holes, I guess, that were dug, stuffed, filled of bones and also animal parts. And then there was a tree that I can send you a picture of with all these animal parts just aligned and set up on it, which is super creepy. And that's all, right near the Beast of Bray Road type activity. And the local police department went in and they bulldozed the whole area and kind of kept it on like wraps. And that really makes you, I guess, kind of wonder a little bit more. Because, I mean, yeah, sure, that occult type activity could have been separate from all that and could be coincidental that right around that time frame that was occurring. But also, I do know historical aspects. The Beast of Bray Road goes back way further than that. But who knows? Same thing, I guess, if that occult activity was occurring back then as well, though, from similar relatives or same individuals.
Oh yeah, we have places here in Georgia where there have been known satanic rituals going on, and we have a lot of werewolf and dogman reports from those areas. So like I said, it plays a role in some of this. So yeah, it's definitely something to dive into. And I know you are going to do a great job on diving into that.
No, I appreciate that. Very kind words. And actually, that's what we can focus on if you want. The next time you get a chance to pop back on, we'll try to bring up some merit on what's going on with that as well, because no, there's definitely some sort of correlations as to what's occurring. And actually, this would be something good we can talk about potentially in the future too. Is I have some interesting theories on Port Lock, Alaska, and Port Chatham, where when you look back at the occurrences, no one ever sees a Sasquatch or a Dogman. They just see large hominoid type figures or bipedal hominoids in the forest shadows. Well, Dogmen are also bipedal hominoids. And the bodies are ripped to shreds, completely torn apart, and that's dog behavior. Domesticated dogs tear their toys apart, and nothing was preyed upon, just ripped to shreds. And in a ton of the other Dogman cases, they throw body parts all around, and like in the LVL case, they disemboweled the little girl in the tree, tossed her up there. So you have this all occurring in that area. And also, there's a story from New Jersey where two little boys were in the forest. One little boy was apparently friends with this dog man in a cabin. The other little boy was like, okay, let's go see. And there's all these chew toys all around that the kid had brought him. And inside, there's this dog man thing doing something on the floor. So dogs chew things. Okay. Recently, there was an expedition of people that went up there to see if this was potentially able to be rehabilitated again and they could come back and build. And while they were up there, they found this large, like, den kind of dug into the ground, which is super creepy. And they also at night heard the sound when they were hearing these strange bark and howl type things, noises, like the sound of chains. Okay. And some of the other cases people have spoken about with like the potentially, letting something off a chain, or also like whistles calling it back, and that, these things potentially live in burrows too. So that's just some food for thought for you to digest a little bit, for maybe something we can touch on in the future, because I think myself that I don't know if that was Bigfoot. I think there's a lot of signs that point to that could be actually potential dogmen up there, but
It could be. Now, I've done a lot of research on that myself, so we could have an interesting talk about that, because they were supposed to be Bigfoots and they were said to be super, super gigantic, and they were very territorial, and they were trying to prove a point. And I got to tell you, in Alaska, especially around the Alaska Triangle, all the wildlife there, including the Sasquatch and whatever other cryptids we have, you got to include the Kushtaka and all these other different cryptids that are up there. They are increasingly violent against humans
Hmm.
in this area, and it's well known. that they're increasingly like more violent against humans. So there's something weird going on in Alaska for sure. So that is a great thing to look into. Also, something that I just thought of, I'd love to get your opinion sometime. We need to do a show on this sometime to talk about the potential in the alleged Dogman breeding program that our is said to have.
Yeah, no, that would be a great topic to touch base on as well, and especially whatever you can shoot my way for me to do some research on that. That would be amazing. And I do apologize, my audience. I, myself, and of course, Jessica is super busy, so we need to wrap this up here, but we will have her on very soon again. If all rolls well with her schedule, she should be popping on bi-weekly for us to dive into this strange Dogman topic we've been trying to discover the truth about. So thank you for everyone that did tune in, and make sure to pop over to Jessica's page. I will put all her links up as well. And I look forward to seeing everyone here soon.
Thank you for everyone who once again stopped by for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. If you did enjoy this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it. Feed the algorithm. And until next time, stay safe out there.